A good day to you. A good day to you all. Yeah, man. We're back up in this thing. Well, I want to, first of all, wish everybody a happy November. Happy November. Hope everybody enjoyed that extra hour's sleep. Right? Hope everybody enjoyed their Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, man, do people trick or treat anymore? Do kids trick or treat anymore? Like I don't see it. I don't see trick or treaters anymore. And this is just, not just this year, but going back to even trying to think back to when I lived in Oklahoma. We didn't have any trick or treaters. I bought a shit ton of candy one year expecting trick or treaters and nothing. So I don't know. Maybe we don't trick or treat anymore. Maybe that's one of those old time traditions that we kind of sacrificed on the altar of technological innovation, right? It's like it seems that every I don't know. It seems like everything that I've grown up with, we've kind of done away with or phased out as technology has offered something in replacement of that. For example, kids used to play outside, not so much anymore. That was like the ultimate form of entertainment when I was younger, man. You'd get home, knock your homework out, or if you had, parents that were kind of, I don't know, I would say cool, the cool parents. But either way, you go outside, you play football. You see a bunch of your friends outside throwing a football around. You play a football game in the neighborhood, or ride bikes, do whatever, man. But most of what you did was outside. You don't see that shit anymore. But maybe, I don't know, maybe that's part of getting old, right? You start to see all the stuff that you grew up with kind of get phased out. But yeah, man, I don't see any we can get any trick or treaters. As a matter of fact, in the house next door, they had carved like 3 pumpkins. They got 3 jack o' lanterns on their front yard, and they have kids. I mean, I feel like if you're gonna put in the work to decorate your house for a holiday, you should at least participate in the customs of that holiday. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, maybe it's a COVID thing, right? So, I mean, yeah, you never know. You never know. And obviously, elephant in the room, we are one day removed from the day of all days, election day. And I hope everybody is, man, I just hope people have a plan to get there. And for you people in cities, I hope you have, I would advise people going to the polls to go in pairs just because, I think the presumption from the countercultural forces is that most of the people voting in person are voting for our current standing president. And, I just can't help but feel like there's going to be some kind of violence, intimidation, whatever, that takes place at these polling stations and these polling locations. Not that that should dissuade anybody. As a matter of fact, that should motivate you. But, I just hope people have a plan to be able to exercise their right to vote safely. If that's what you choose to do. If you don't want to vote, then, do that too. Shit. But, yeah, man, this will be interesting. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope above all else that we walk right up to this cliff, but we don't go over the edge, if you catch my drift. But we'll see. We shall see, man. Yeah, we'll see, because things are getting pretty tense, pretty tense. And I'm seeing different things on social media about different groups, threatening to do certain things and, occupying buildings with guns, Antifa. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I'm not optimistic. I will put it that way. The only way I'm optimistic about the outlook of our country, of this great nation, the only way that I'm optimistic is if President Trump landslides. Because that will say to me that there is a strong enough contingency of people who, number one, see the media for what it is. Number two, see the nefarious plot being executed by these social media companies. And number three, will not be intimidated by countercultural forces. It's the only way. Even if the president wins and it's close, I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic because of what I'm really looking to see is how many people really see what's going on in this country and how many people are just kind of, being spoon fed misinformation and in a lot of cases disinformation. But anyway, enough of that. I didn't come here to talk to you about that. Actually, I was listening to a podcast from the previous day. I was going to do this one yesterday, but man, I was tired. I was like, eh. But I was listening to one from the previous day, and I was like, you know what, man, maybe I beat up on liberals a little bit too much, especially because, come to think of it, maybe liberal isn't the right term. I mean, look, I do have beef with liberals as they were before all of this and the realignment that I think is taking place right now. But I've, trafficked a few liberal media outlets, which is pretty much every single one of them, except for like a handful. But they refer to these people as neo-liberals. Okay, fine, maybe that's the term. But so I said, I beat up on these people. There are good people on both sides, and that's the truth. There are. And there are bad people on both sides. That is also the truth. And if I implicated in anything that I said that, the whole of liberals in America need to be thrown away because they're all bad, that was not my intention. And I guess as I get more familiar with this and doing this, I'll have to be a little bit more specific on the things that I say. Only because, I hate being misrepresented, misinterpreted, number one. And number two, I think a lot of people make the mistake when they're talking about their own personal beliefs of assuming that the audience understands their inner thoughts. So I don't ever want to assume that you or presume to think that you are on the same page, whether or not you already are. So anyway, in the spirit of that, today I want to talk to you about, COVID. Not necessarily COVID, right? But, it seems like you have literally two different factions of people in America right now in terms of the extremes of both sides. And we're talking about mask mandates and all that. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether I think it's good or bad, but I am going to say that on the extremes, you have like two different kinds of people, right? And I've dealt with both recently. Now, indirectly in the first case. In the first case, I was in, where the hell was I? Oh, Lowe's. That's where I was. I was in Lowe's and, they're requiring masks and all that. And I saw a lady go in and she didn't have a mask on. And some other random person was like, I don't know, I hate the term shaming. It's such a pansy leftist term. I hate using it. But she was really just getting in her business about it. And I asked the lady, I said, do you know her? Cause it bordered on that line where you as a third party witnessing this, you would think that it was two friends just kind of ribbing each other. Cause if not, then it's like, damn, like who is this person to, chastise you like you're one of their children? I said, so do you know this lady? She's like, no, I have no idea who that is. I was like, wow. The audacity, right? The audacity of someone to just, but that's where we are. And so that was one case, right? And in that case, I call those people Maskholes. So because they have their masks on and, they like to police everybody and, they're assholes, hence Maskholes. So that's the one case, right? Then the other case was actually last week. My last day of work, I was stopping at a gas station on the way back home. And it's one of those gas stations that is requiring people to wear masks when they go inside. Now, personally, when I walk around outside, I don't have a mask on. Personally, unless I'm instructed to or asked by the vendor of the building, I don't wear a mask. But for those businesses that ask and not say it's required, for those businesses that say we prefer, please wear a mask, this, and that, I do it. Absolutely do it. Now, when they say it's required, it depends on the mood I'm in. Because I don't like being told what to do by someone who has no authority over me whatsoever. And I think it's a slippery slope of when you start to accept dictates and mandates from people. Very seldom do they curtail their own ambition. In most cases, you just open yourself up for more dictates and more mandates. So, anyway, this was a place that said, please wear a mask. So I put a mask on. Because in that case, I kind of look at it like the McDonald's sign, right? And I guess you could make this argument for even the places that require it, right? But don't like being told what to do. So I kind of regard it like the McDonald's sign that says, no shirt, no shoes, no service, right? So those are the kind of mental gymnastics I play to kind of put this stupid thing on my face and walk in this place, even though we won't get into that anyway. So I did. And, there's always some guy in there. And to be fair, it's usually some redneck dude because, well, I work in the sticks. So, there's one job that I'm on is in the sticks. So, and it's right by a pretty heavily trafficked truck stop. So you get all kinds of people in there. But, some redneck dude with a Trump hat, not wearing a mask, and just kind of eyeballing everybody so they look at him and see that he knows he's not wearing a mask, if you can kind of envision what I'm saying. And I'm just like, I get it. I really get it. Trust me, I get it. But it's not necessary. It really isn't. Like, I maybe it's just me. I don't go looking for conflict. At the same time, I don't run away from it. But I don't go looking for it. I mean, I got enough shit going on in my life. I don't need to add any extra. So, if I could do something that's simple and it does not offend my sensibilities that much, then I'll just do it. Especially if you ask me nicely. I think the approach is my biggest thing. So anyway, this guy, he's kind of looking around and then when nobody's acknowledging him, because, and I was so glad they didn't, because, you see certain people who are looking and just kind of wanting to be challenged so that they can create some kind of drama. So I think everybody kind of got a sense of that and just kind of avoided eye contact with him and didn't really say anything to him. And he was unsatisfied. And how I know he was unsatisfied, because he made a remark about him not wearing a mask. And it's like, no, we get it. We get it. That's kind of like there was a dude also in that same visit, black dude. I'm assuming he was a trucker because he had a head stop and he came in and asked for and he was buying a shower. But which is amazing that you can take a shower in these places, but you have to wear. Okay, whatever. So anyway, this black dude came in. He was a truck. I'm assuming he was a trucker. He had, like I said, he had the headset. He had an overnight or like a duffel bag with clothes, and he was getting a shower. But he had a shirt on, and the T-shirt just said black, and it was a black T-shirt, white letters, which is that I thought that was. Well, I mean, if you're going to go that route, isn't that counterproductive? I don't know. But he had that shirt on. I saw that shirt, and I just looked away because I just had to roll my eyes. Like, him and the guy with no mask. Like, you're the same person. Like, why is people who seek out drama to give their life meaning? I don't get that, man. I really don't get that. Just like the guy with no mask. Yeah, we see you're not wearing a mask, bro. We see it. We don't have to talk about it. And his comment was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know why we got to wear these masks or some stupid shit like that. Because the business asked you nicely, okay? And then the guy with the shirt, said black. Yeah, we see you're black, dude. That's my power of perception has not failed me. So I don't know, man. I just hate stupid, meaningless shit like that. I really do. But anyway, like I said, it's people just fishing for drama. So today we're going to talk about both sides. We're going to talk about the Maskholes, and we're also going to talk about the Covidiots. And the man who refused to wear the mask, well, that's a Covidiot. So because I think there's there's good and bad on both sides, right? And so the Maskholes, look, there's something to be said for complying, right? There's something to be said for following the rules. I think we could use a lot more of that, as a matter of fact, in society, especially as it pertains to complying with, oh, I don't know, lawful orders given by, wait for it, law enforcement. So that's fine. But at the same time, we can't succumb to panic. I said it at the beginning of this whole thing because I never, full disclosure, I never bought into it. Never bought into it. Never bought into the hysteria, which is why when I talk to people usually about COVID and they use the word pandemic, I correct them and say pandemonium. Because fear spreads faster than disease. So, I understand when to be safe. I understand when to take proper procedures. But also, I understand there's a tipping point. There's a balance. There's a moderation. And I guess that's the overarching theme of today's podcast is trying to find that balance, trying to return to moderation, right? There's a point where your willingness to comply encourages despots and tyrants to see what else they can do. It's almost like that bully in school that keeps pushing you. You turn the other cheek. Maybe you were raised that way, and okay. Well, sometimes they don't stop. Sometimes then they want to smack your books down. And it's like, okay. And again, it's just the accretion of these offenses against your person until you finally say enough is enough. But in a lot of cases, at least things that I've seen, the escalation is, number one, exponential. It's not a little bit, then a little bit, then a little bit. It's a little bit, then a big portion, then a much bigger portion, then a huge portion. And then before you know it, it's like, damn, how did I get to this point? Well, it built on itself, but it builds exponentially, right? As a matter of fact, I saw an article that said 2 masks, right? There were some scientists talking about, oh, we need to start wearing 2 masks now because 2 masks are more effective than, I'm not doing this dumb shit, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm done. So, and every time I see those masks, I think of 2 things. I think of those T-shirts that just say obey. What is a better portrait of that than people walking around with their mouth covered? It's so symbolic as if, the mask obviously covers your mouth, doesn't cover your ears. So what's the symbolism there? Well, your ears are open so you can receive commands, but you can't say anything back, right? Not to say that a mask mutes you. I'm just talking about the symbolism of the imagery of wearing a mask. And the other thing this made me think of is, again, going to the erosion of individualism. This whole thing, man. These Maskholes, their willingness to turn on their neighbors to satisfy the man behind the curtain. These authority figures who they do not come in contact with on a daily basis. You live next door to, like when they were talking about people who were snitching their neighbors out for having gatherings or doing this and doing that. I'm like, I don't understand that, man. I don't understand that from a moral standpoint, number one, because I don't believe in encroaching on other people's freedom as long as they're not impacting mine. And everybody was locked down, so they weren't impacting yours. And number two, I don't understand that from a tactical perspective because, okay, well, when the police leave, guess what? You're still living next door to them. And there was a case in, I think it was St. Louis, where one of the citizens using the Sunshine Law, which is kind of a transparency FOIA kind of deal where if somebody files a police report, their name is attached to it. And they just kind of made a Facebook post that just kind of outed everybody who snitched on people in the neighborhood. Well, I believe they call that street justice. So, anyway, the other thing that makes me think of is, and I'm going to take you guys way back to 6th grade literature. Oh, man. There was a book we read in 6th grade called My Brother Sam is Dead. and I really loved that book. It was about. It's kind of like, for those of you who've seen The Patriot with Mel Gibson, it's pretty much the same thing, just from the perspective of a child. So there was a family that was living in, I think, Connecticut during the time of where the revolution was getting started, and the family wanted to stay out of it. The oldest brother, I'm telling you, it's almost a direct, I don't want to say ripoff, but it's almost pretty much the same story as The Patriot. Instead of being told from Mel Gibson as the father, it was told from the youngest child's perspective. So anyway, there's a part where the oldest son runs off and joins the fighting. Sam, who, spoiler alert, he dies in the novel. My brother Sam is dead. So anyway, the younger son saw the younger kid. I think his name was Tim. He gets more involved in it. Now his parents are staunchly against it. But anyway, he starts running notes for this shady guy named, what was his name? Shit. Mr. Heron. There it is. Bam. Wow. So he's running these letters for him. The guy's like, yeah, just do this errand. But this guy's kind of a shady, kind of political figure who's doing some stuff behind the scenes, right? Well, there was one, he was running the messages, and this other character kind of intercepts him and is like, you shouldn't be working for him, blah, 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 blah. Well, she goes through the messages. She finds one message that I thought was very interesting. And it was him writing to another person who, I can't remember that guy's name. He was equally as shady. But all it said was, if this message is received, and I'm paraphrasing here, if this message is received, then we know this messenger is reliable. And that's every time I see these people, man, that just blindly follow these Maskholes. I'm like, okay, but you understand that when you let people push your boundaries, they don't just say, oh, you let me get away with that. Okay, I'm done. But anyway, to be fair, let's talk to the Covidiots here. Okay. I respect individualism. I respect not wanting to live, quote unquote, on your knees, being dictated to. I respect that. But there is a danger associated with just wild, blind defiance. There is a time to listen to the rules, right? And I think as people's erosion in our institutions, specifically media, specifically the legal system, how that's working in certain parts of the country now, where people who are committing crimes are being allowed right back out. And now more currently with the electoral process, I think as people start to lose faith in these institutions, we open ourselves up for kind of a scenario in The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Well, when it's really a wolf, nobody's going to listen. And so I would caution those Covidiots, like, okay, I get it, but there's, again, moderation. I want to be careful how I phrase this, because I don't want to be hypocritical, because again, I'm one of those people who prefer not to wear a mask. I think we have enough science at this point to back up that assertion, right? But again, science is optional when you're dealing with certain factions of the country. But the fact that we have people who are more comfortable wearing masks, and again, there are certain people who need to wear the mask because they have a compromised immune system, whatever, even if it's peace of mind, whatever. If that's what you need to do it. I don't like people shaming, just like I don't like people, I said shaming, god damn it. Well, I stepped in it now. So, just like I don't like people shaming people for not wearing masks, I don't like people shaming people for wearing masks. If you want to wear it, wear it. If it makes you feel better, do it. There's a lot of things people do that don't necessarily, well, I won't say that, but that are more of a placebo than anything else. And that's fine. That gets into individuality. Again, that gets into people's own personal choices. So, I would like to see the Covidiots kind of back off on that as well. And the other thing is stop calling attention to yourself. Like, okay, if you don't want to wear the mask, just don't wear the mask. But you don't have to have like a Q&A with everybody in the area that you're at. Like, please notice I'm not wearing a mask. Yeah, we notice it. Do you want to ask me why I'm not wearing a mask? No, I don't. Do you want to hear what I have to say? No, I really don't. You're not wearing a mask? Cool. Continue not wearing the mask. But again, I understand the thought process behind it. And another quote, ready? I'm going to double down on My Brother Sam is Dead. Again, it's a really good book. And that's saying something because you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I hated reading back then. I absolutely hate. I'm not really a big fan of it now. But there are a handful of books that I remember reading as a kid that I really loved. My Brother Sam is Dead is one. The Giver was two, but I never finished it. I never finished The Giver. I just remember the dude was on a bicycle. I was towards the end, but I fell behind in the reading, and then after a certain point, the teacher takes all the books back and you get a new book. So I never actually finished it. And let me think of another book that I like to read. I did like Huckleberry Finn. I thought Huckleberry Finn was a cool book. Robinson Crusoe was a cool book. But anyway, that doesn't have shit to do with anything. There is another quote from My Brother Sam is Dead, and I can't remember what character said it, but it was something along the lines of like, and again, paraphrasing here, God meant for man to obey. He meant for children to obey their fathers, and he meant for men to obey their kings. And again, that sentiment stuck with me, obviously, right? Because I'm recalling it all these years later. And again, these aren't direct quotes, I don't think. But the spirit of what these characters were saying and the spirit of the message, I know I'm nailing because, it stuck with me. So I understand the apprehension to dictated rules, right? To just like this capricious kind of do this. Okay, now do this. Okay, now do this without any explanation. I understand the apprehension to that. But I also understand that there's a time and a place to follow the rules. And I just want to make sure that, and would encourage that people just kind of, practice moderation. Whether you're a Maskhole or whether you're a Covidiot, just please practice moderation. Because moderation is the key. Moderation is going to get us back to the point where the whole nation isn't scared about the possibility of a civil war. Because we've lost moderation. And to be fair, it's coming from the left more than the right. Okay? Even as far as the representatives in Congress. They are willing, they've compromised, and, congrats to CNN. You will very rarely hear me say that, but, a few weeks ago you had Wolf Blitzer calling out Nancy Pelosi, and then you had, what's that other guy's name? I think it was Jake Tapper calling out Nancy Pelosi. Because they said, look, the right is actually willing to compromise. They're giving us some stuff, but you're the one that doesn't want to compromise. And again, it's that absolutism. It's that loss of moderation. Because you used to have liberal Republicans, just like you used to have conservative Democrats. And, you still have liberal Republicans, especially now, like I said, with this realignment thing, where there are, liberals on the Republican side, a few of which of friends of mine who have always been liberal, and, we've always kind of butted heads, have said, no, I'm in it for Trump. I'm 100% in it for Trump. And I think that's going to create a very interesting dynamic in our politics that, you see some of these classical, traditional, whatever you want to call them, liberals moving over to the Republican side. I think is going to create a very interesting dynamic in politics. I don't know that I necessarily like it. I'd much rather see them sort out their own party and get control of their own party rather than flee. It's actually my immigrant beef. If I get your country's bad, but why are you running away? That's your family's homeland. Why would you run away from that? God forbid things go terrible in the United States where the point where it decays to civil war. I'm not leaving. I will spend my life here trying to fix it or fight for something that I believe in. But, that's not everybody, I guess. But I would much rather see the liberals kind of stay in their party and fix it rather than run away from it. But, that's what they do. That's my jab for the day. Okay, give me one jab. That was a jab. But anyway, so yeah, I tried to, today tried to do something a little different on the cusp of the great election of 2020. We're going to talk about Maskholes and Covidiots. Everybody got a little piece of it today. I don't know. So that's what I got for you. If you are a Maskhole and you hate me, that's fine. If you're a Covidiot and you hate me, that is also fine, because I hate both of you. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today, people. And I will be back with you tomorrow on the big day. Until then, moderation and peace.